Hello, friend, and welcome back to Homeward, the podcast for your spirit, for your soul, for your business, and for the journey home to the truth of who you really are. I'm so delighted to introduce you to today's guest. He is a kindred soul and spirit, and he is a teacher, mentor of mine personally. And what you will experience in this conversation today is just so much depth, so much opening, some vulnerable shares, and an exercise that he actually brings me through as we talk about internalized shame and oppression and business. And I have been a student of David Bedrick's for a couple of years now. This is his book, The Unshaming Way. I highly recommend that you grab it. And in the work that I did in becoming a process oriented facilitator in his certification program, I learned about this, essentially the topic of shame and the way that shame constricts us and holds us back and pins us in and keeps us from really stepping into our greatness, from sharing our voices, from really realizing the fullest potential of who we are here to be. And I was so moved by David's work, which you'll hear me share in this interview today, that I knew that I wanted to work more deeply with him. And one of my greatest wishes was to have him on the podcast. And today's conversation is going to be so special for you. And there are a few of you, if you're my community members and clients, that I talk about, obviously not sharing your name. So you may hear some stories that are familiar to you. And David talks about clients that he's worked with. And I just think this is really like a workshop conversation. This is not a typical podcast interview. And so I invite you to grab your notebooks and to really take note on what jumps for you and to allow yourself to go on this journey with my dear friend David Bedrick. To give you a couple of details about him. So David was on the faculty at the University of Phoenix for process work, and he has written for Psychology Today. He's the author of 3 books, talking back to Dr. Phil, alternatives to the mainstream psychology and revisioning activism, bringing depth, dialogue, and diversity to individual and social change. He also wrote a book, You Can't Judge a Body by Its Cover, 17 Women's Stories of Hunger, Body Shame, and Redemption. And of course, The Unshaming Way, the 4th book, A Compassionate Guide to Dismantling Shame. I met him through a workshop that Simone Soul hosted on Unshaming. And I'm excited. I'm excited for you to receive today's masterclass with the incredible David Bedrick. Let's get into it. Hello, friends, and welcome to the show. This is a very special day. I am, David, I've wanted to have you on the podcast for a while. And then I heard about The Unshaming Way, your incredible book coming out. And then I was like, okay, we're gonna have the book be at the front, because I also think your teaching's so important. I want people to be able to access it. And now they can, obviously on social media, but also through your book, The Unshaming Way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Congratulations on getting that out into the world.
Thank you. It's actually my number 4.
I know, but this is like the unshaming one,
This is
you know?
this is it. You're
This
right.
is the unshaming one. And it's really like enter, stage left of when I discovered you. So I discovered you through Simone Soul.
Right.
And when she had you on, I don't know, it was like a series or something. And I just remember hearing you talk about what you were talking about. And I just thought, yes, everything that you're saying is,
Mm,
I don't know how we can heal as individuals in this world without
mm.
walking through the doorway of unshaming work.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know how we can actually get,
Mm,
and I'm hesitant to say free or healed or anything, because I understand that in your
mm.
work, it's actually not really about that, is it?
Well, people have a conception of the idea of healing, and that's part of the problem. The idea of healing is I have a difficulty and it goes away. I have a headache and you give me something and my headache goes away. That would be great, right? Or whatever. I'm aging. It turns out to be true. I'm almost 70. And wouldn't it be good if you can slow that down because my aging symptoms, various kinds of things, my aches and pains, and that would go away, right? I have a tumor, the tumor would go away.
Yeah.
But psychological healing, even spiritual healing, if we can call it that, doesn't always unfold by making things go away. It unfolds by things flowering. So your difficulties are pregnant with something. But if you treat your difficulties like that should go away, you may never find that flower.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you say a bit more about what the flowering means? Because I think some of my beautiful literal folk here might be like, okay, I hear that. I see a flower in my head. How could my pain have a flower in it? What do you mean, David?
That's a great question. I'm thinking about pain now. So if you ask somebody about a headache, let's say, right, and then it'd be nice to be caring about that person and give them an aspirin or massage their temples or whatever they're going to close their eyes, whatever that's going to ease that is also lovely. But then if you ask a person to describe their headache, the somatic experience of the headache, their not their idea, but the headache itself, it's pounding, or it's pressure on the temples, or it's migrainal, it makes me spin and make my eyes close and I can't see, or it's a sharp pain like a knife in the side of my head. People will describe those things in literal terms, in somatic terms, then those descriptions show energy. For instance, if I describe my headache as pounding, then there's a pounding energy. So if people can't see, I'm putting my hand, making into a fist and pounding into my other fist. Da, 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 da. So that energy lives in me and it wants to flower, it wants to be lived. I want to relieve it from my head, but then I also need to say, Amber, this is what I think, and pound the desk, or no freaking way, or yes, that's what I've always wanted. And as I'm saying those things, my fists are going like the pounding. So in my head is an energy that wants to live. So I say flowering means it comes out and it blossoms into something not like a headache that's a difficult problem, but something magnificent. In this case, the power of my passion. Mhm.
Mm, yeah. I mean, what? Okay, so nobody talks about a headache in this way, right? And what I was so moved by and obviously continue to be moved by is that fundamentally at the root, and please interject and correct me if this is not true
Mhm.
for you, there is no part of us that we are making wrong for existing. So, like, whatever's happening is a truth that is revealing itself in one way, shape, or form. And the work is of this is to witness it and to
Yeah,
be with it in an intimate way.
yeah,
And when
that's right.
I yeah, and when I heard you start talking about this and I studied your work and then I participated in one of your cohorts for process oriented facilitation and got to just like really um be with it, it's helped me so much just in my own journey. However, it's helped me to be a better practitioner with others because it's actually easier for me to get to do that witness work with others and hold with others
Yeah,
in what's the pathology, quote unquote, because I know that
yeah,
we don't, the pathologization of our experiences is one of the biggest problems, I think.
yeah, yeah,
I'm saying a lot of things, but I know you're with me, and I just think there's this exquisiteness of everything having a level of interconnectedness to truth and what a person's true
mm,
experience is, and I just am so moved by that.
mm. I love the way you said that. We were talking about poetry right before we started. I'm hearing your poetic nature. The other day, I was working with a student who said that they had a past difficulty, traumatic early life, like I was gonna say most of us, maybe all of us, and maybe
Mhm.
maybe all of us except for those in denial. It might be my joke, but
Yeah.
because traumas happen in so many different levels, and they said there's a lot of fear that lives in me, fear that's the remnants of those early experiences, which is true. And that's their idea, their narrative about this experience they're having is that it's a fear that's a remnant of an early experience and they were frightened when they were young, etc. But then I said, let's experience that fear. What's your fear like? They said it's like a shaking inside. So can you show me the shaking? And now we're into the body, into their experience, not their ideas, not their theory about this is trauma and it's remnants of the past, all those good words that we learn. Can you go into that? And they took their hands and they started shaking. They made their hands clenched and they started shaking. So now it started to look like fists that are shaking back and forth as opposed to a trembling. It could have just been a trembling. Keep going with that. And pretty soon the fists are going back and forth like they're in a fight, like they're punching and their fists are going out and up And they go, hands go up and up. And I said, what's that like? And they said, oh, I'm full of power. So we think it's fear. We just called it fear, somebody else. And then once they got into that power, I said, was there some fear around? And they said, yeah, I'm afraid of how powerful I am. Now, can you see what's flowered and what the narrative changed? It used to be, I'm afraid because I had a violent father. I'm afraid because I have my father living still inside of me and I had trauma. That's true. I have that experience. But then also, there's a flowering. This thing that looks like fear is a violent shaking that has a lot of power in it. And then it's no longer only my fear of some past, it's my fear of being who I really am, taking the next step in my life or my business or my relationships as the person that I really am. Anyway, I'm passionate about
Mm.
that because I love how when people go into something, you learn something that you wouldn't have seen, that the idea of the narrative, if I can say it, um, so many times I work with somebody and their understanding of what's going on came from someone who told them or a book they read, but not from what's really happening inside of me. And that's
Yes.
the tragedy for me.
Right. It's like this cerebral interpretation that then becomes identity. And then it's like told over and over and over again. And this is why I'm like this.
Yeah.
And then it's like that filter goes out into every experience from there forward and anything that they're trying to create in relationships. And, we all have our own versions of that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it keeps us from each other, I think.
That's a beautiful way to say it. Yeah. The intimacy. Even if I could say, oh, the person's scared, let me help you. This is what you can do. Let me give you the supplements, the protocol for
Yeah.
calming your fears. Then we never find out how powerful they are and
Right.
what they want to do next in their life with that power, including what you're suggesting, making a more intimate relationship with themselves, with other people, with their world, with their business, with their clients, more connection, more authenticity out of it.
Right.
Authenticity almost always flowers out of you becoming more you. And getting rid of the parts that you suffer from doesn't always create that. It may create
Mm,
more ease. I want more ease for everybody,
mm,
but more than more ease, I hope you become you because whatever you're going to give to the world, I want that to happen because lots of people and nature and birds and trees and gardens and whatever you're going to touch is going to be touched by you. And I hope that happens and all those people and creatures that are waiting for your medicine to touch them, to kiss them, to yell at them, to scream at them. I want all those people to be served. And if we just chill you out, that may not happen unless chill is
mhm.
what your nature is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Chilling you out might be the thing you feel like you need to do, but actually you really some folks, I'm thinking of a client specifically when you talked
Yeah.
about the power, need to be more activated. Need to be take up way more space in the fullness of like actually meeting your own stature and bringing
Incredible.
that out into the world because you are a very powerful force of
Yeah.
life.
We
Mm.
were talking about this in my class yesterday, and after going through that experience with that one student, I said to people, "Now, how many of you think that you have fears that resulted from your past?" And I don't know, 60, 70% more people raised their hands. And I said, "How many of you had had responses to the violence you had in your childhood, but you were afraid to be as expressive because you thought you would hurt somebody. You thought that parent couldn't handle it. You thought that teacher couldn't handle it. You would crush them." And like 80% of the people responded. So interesting. One part, I'm still scared of my father. That's true. He's dead 20 years. Doesn't matter, right? I know that fear in my body. I remember what he was like with his fists and belts and all that stuff. On the other, so then I identify with being a scared person. There's nothing wrong with that. I was victimized. Don't be a victim. I was victimized. It hurt. It affected my body and psyche and life. And the
Mhm.
person, that boy in me who was there, who was scared, wasn't the only one there. There was also a boy in me who's going, if I ever said the things I wanted to say, I would crush this man. Now, would I or not, I don't know. But that part of me thinks this is a little father, right? That I could step
Mhm.
on,
Mhm.
also lives in me. So what happens to that part of my experience? I'm afraid of crushing you, as opposed to I'm afraid you'll crush me. It gets
Mhm.
frozen.
Mhm.
We lose contact with that. So many people. And if you're of a marginalized group or a gender, meaning more like women gender, that's been the power has been more carefully suppressed, oppressed, shamed. Don't be that way. You're a B. Be nice, be open,
Mm.
listen, be all those things that genderize women out of their power. Um, then it becomes more important to recover, doesn't it? Redeem uh, that part of experience. Yeah. Where
Yeah.
else are we going today? Take me wherever you want. I'm just so
Good.
glad to be speaking
Yeah.
with you. Yeah.
Well, I think, we're turning into the business page in this conversation today is there are
Mhm.
predominantly, I mean, everyone that's listening to this identifies as an entrepreneur in one way, shape, or form,
Mhm.
even if they're, was one of my clients calls it like corporate adjacent. It doesn't matter. I think
Corporate
everybody.
Jason.
I also think like, you know, every single person, even a person who has a quote unquote corporate job, has sovereignty to choose the work that they're doing and the contribution that they're making.
Amazing.
And even if it's not the ideal, and I love the identity of like, I'm, I am my own entity. It doesn't matter how I file my taxes, whether it's a W 2 or a 1099 or a whatever. I love this idea of like getting to hold that. But most everybody here has got their own businesses. And what earlier today on Instagram, I shared with my community that I was going to be having a chat with you, and I was really looking forward to it. And so I asked for the collective that felt like they wanted to share anonymously, where they experience, and it's interesting because the way I asked it was, what shame do you feel in relationship to your business? Like this idea of like internalized shame in our business. So I was
Yeah,
naming that. And the responses were really similar. I'm just going to read a bunch to you and just like whichever feels like the place for us to kind of speak to. But I
I
can
love.
feel the ache here. I can feel the pain here. I can feel the holdback of power. I can feel these incredible, gifted women um,
Yeah.
being burdened by this. And so here are some of their shares. And thank you to everybody who shared. Shame that my business doesn't feel legit and is not successful. Feeling like I should be further along than I am or have more of an audience. I made an embarrassing and bad money mistake in the past and I lost trust with some people. That I'm burdening my family with my time away, that I'm a burden.
Wow.
Trying to get to the bottom of my worthiness. I should be further along by now. I should be have been able to do more for my family financially. That I spent so much time, money on my business and it's still not profitable. The amount of time, effort, and money and how it impacts my family for little results. Not making as much money as some at this point. That my
Wow.
clients should be getting better results than they are. Deep down that it feels like I'm taking time for myself. I
Yeah.
should be earning more money, working more hours, trying harder. I don't
Mhm.
love it like I used to. The fire isn't burning strong. It's more of a light sparkle. And
Oh,
then one was that I feel doubt. I got a couple little private DMs that I don't feel like I should feel doubtful about it. I should just,
wow.
you know. So that was that's kind of like
Amazing.
the heartbeat of what came through.
That's amazing. Mm.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is amazing. It's just touching to listen to the list. If we had time, I'd say read those a few more times, just to like a poem, just to
Mm.
hear them and be moved by the experiences. And it should be outed. All those kinds of things should be outed so that people normalize. These are the kind of things. These are not what's wrong with you, what should you do. These are the kind of things if you want to enter into a world of your own sovereignty around your purpose or your entrepreneurship, don't be surprised by these. These come along with you. I'm going to
Mhm.
call them allies, meaning not
Mm.
not their allies in the sense of Amber, I'm behind you. You can always count on me. But allies meaning also the ones that poke you and the ones that try to trip you that you have to find your way with. The
Mm.
allies that make it harder. I'm calling them allies. I'm not thinking you should fall in love with people who try to hurt you, but then you have to find yourself.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
just the list alone, I think, is powerful. Um, you mentioned because you're working. mostly with women, you mentioned family a number of times.
Many
The
times.
theme. So then I, as a man who studied sexism enough, so I don't have it in my bones the way you do, or the way Lisa, my partner, does. But when I hear women talk about the concern about family, I start thinking about gender. Wow, because not a lot of men would say that,
I know. That
and more
list,
women would say that. It's
yes.
good that women are concerned about family, and then I start thinking about internalized depression.
Mm,
To what extent are these women living with something that says, are you take when you follow yourself, you're selfish. When you follow yourself, you're a burden to family. When you follow yourself, you're stealing from people who need you. The concern is a good one. Do I care about my family? But if what's in your head, are you taking care of your family? You're not taking care of your family. If what's in your head is a voice that repeats to you and makes you feel guilty about following yourself, that's not only genuine concern that's in your head, that's an oppressive voice that's meant to shrink and put you in a role, in a box where you're less powerful in the outer world. If you don't notice that, if you don't notice there's an oppressive, like if I'm sitting there saying, who are you as a woman doing your own business? What about your family? Like then you would say, that's an asshole, right? If I was talking to you like that,
right.
come on,
Right.
give me a break. Well, are you taking care of your family? I think, isn't it selfish to do your own thing, Amber? You would think, this guy, I don't like this guy. Then you would notice I'm not a friendly kind of character. Don't keep me around. Don't make me your business coach because I'm going to be constantly trying to put you in a box that I have in my mind. But if that lives in your head and you don't notice it, you don't think there's an asshole living in my head. I must have learned that from somewhere in the culture. Maybe from my parents, maybe from the culture, maybe from my rabbi or priest, but in the culture at large, if you don't think I learned that from someone and it's an asshole that I was mimicking, then you think it's true.
Hmm.
Maybe I am. And then you're getting self doubt because something is putting you down,
Yeah.
but you take it as legitimate. That's why you think, am I stealing from my family? So that needs to be torn apart a little bit, separated enough. Because if it's the I'm sorry, I'm using the phrase asshole. If it's the asshole who's saying, well, as a woman, what I really mean is as a woman, you should be with your kids and not doing your own thing. If that's really what I mean and you don't notice it, then you'll have bad feelings. You'll wonder why you're having bad feelings. And that wondering is shame. What's wrong with me? Why am I like this? But if you notice it, you'll say, gosh, I internalize a sexist culture. It's always making me think I should be there for my kids and not have my own life. Do you have that too? That's not a person full of shame. That's a person who recognizes that there's something against them, needs some solidarity. Talk to Amber, talk to another woman, read a book about sexism. I would do something other than think, why am I so screwed up? Am I stealing from my family? And those two mind states, I'm stealing from my family, what's wrong with me? How do I deal with this? Versus, wow, I have an internalized depression. It puts me down. I need some solidarity with other women or some empowerment. Those two mindsets are totally different. Equal amount of put down inside. One is a person who's awake, who's not thinking something is wrong with them, who's going to pursue the unfolding of their sovereignty, as you were saying. Another person is going to look for healing for what's wrong with them and feel guilty about who they are. It's going to trip them and disempower their entrepreneurial service.
Hmm. What comes up a lot for us, and I'm as much with these women as they are with me, you know.
Yeah,
Like I said to you before we hit record, it took me almost a year to allow myself to receive this space that I'm speaking to you from.
yeah,
And I would hear my family outside playing, and then immediately I would get the trigger of like, are you doing enough in your business? Are you making enough money to justify being away from your family? Like I couldn't.
right.
And so it was like putting that pressure on myself that has, there is no amount of money that will ever equal out to enough. And I think that part right there, when I think about the way that the women in my world are waiting for and working for enough.
Beautiful. I mean, powerful. Yeah, I hear it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the pathology, like
Yeah,
that's where we have to go in and enter what the root of that is, because the business can't do that. the children can't do that. The
No.
marriage can't do that. The body can't, look a certain way enough to do that. It is
Yeah.
really about the relationship with self. And so I wonder if we could, even open into something around that for those that are in this loop, right, of never enough. And I call it like the shell game. Because for me early on in my business, I remember it was like one day I'd be feeling like I was a bad mom, for my daughter who was 9 months old when I started my business. She's 11 now. It's like, whoa. Um, and then if it wasn't that, then it would be like, oh, I'm not serving my clients well enough today, or I'm not financially providing for my family enough with this business that I quit my job for, and the pressure of that. And then if it wasn't that, then it was always, which was the fallback of my body. It's like I'm not eating well, I'm not exercising enough, I'm gained a few pounds, I don't. So it was
Right.
like it didn't matter what the subject was. It was always the same thing under the shell, but I was just labeling the shell as
Yeah.
something different. And when I use that example to talk about this with my clients, it's like they go, yeah, I play the shell game too.
Yeah. Powerful. Yeah. I mean, there's two things that I think about. If I was working with somebody and they were talking, I'm just not enough from, and I'm making too much sacrifices, and it's not enough. I'm not making enough, or I'm not beautifully enough, or I'm not making enough money. Um, so the enoughness is coming through, like you said, not just one spot. You're not doing enough of
Yeah,
this.
like it shape shifts.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
shape shifts. That's a beautiful way to say it. It's like a shaman. It's a
Yeah.
shaman who's not interested in your healing.
Not a nice
Mhm.
shaman.
Not a nice bad shaman. We should write a book, Bad Shaman, you
Bad
know?
shaman.
Um,
Yeah.
well, then the one direction, which is maybe the more obvious to people, is there's something that I was referring to as internalized sexism, internalized oppression, that's operating like an inner critic. It's an
Yeah.
unknown voice. It's an unknown attitude that lives inside. So if I'm thinking, I'm not enough, something must be telling me that.
Right.
I'm thinking I'm not, but the energy, the voice, the opinions that are saying that are invisible.
Yeah.
So they need to be made more visible. So if you said I'm not enough, and we were free, I'd say, who says? And you said me, and I say, okay, tell me, why is Amber not enough? If it's you saying it,
Yeah.
tell me all the way she's not enough. Go for it, all the way though. Well, she's not doing this. What else? What else? And I would just
Right.
keep on thinking, what else?
She doesn't have as many followers or
As somebody, exactly.
she
Yeah,
doesn't have all of the cool friends on the internet, or she
right,
doesn't say things like so and so says,
right,
mm, she doesn't make her kids homemade perfect meals constantly. I could come up with a
exactly.
thousand. She didn't have $100,000 month this year. It's
Oh,
like the
you have
bar.
then I would talk to that part. I'd say, "You have certain standards for her. Do you think where did you get those from? She has to make $100,000 a month and have the same followers as to Gabor Mate, whatever the comparison is. Where did you get those ideas about Amber?" Now
Yeah.
I'm at least talking to that thing. And then I
Yeah.
would also ask, "Why do you think she's having those problems? Dear whoever you are who's all-knowing and seeing, what's wrong with her? Is she just wayward? Because I wanna
You're just wayward.
just to screw up, you
Yeah.
know? Is she a woman? Is you secretly think she's a woman and shouldn't be doing any of these things? What? Come on out. Say all
Mm,
your opinions so we know, so I know who you are because you're invisible and you're creating painful feelings for me regularly.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
show up and tell me what you really think because I want to determine whether I should listen to you, whether you have anything good for me, whether you're just a nasty, hateful voice that lives inside of my head. I
Mm,
get to determine whether I think you are good for me, whether I agree, I can argue back with you. But if we're not seeing that, if that's not appearing, listening to that voice, that intelligence, that orientation, that value system, if I'm not listening carefully, it's just going in and I'm believing it. Just like the
right.
example before. But I don't know if we should believe you. Who are you? Are you a
And then there's behavior patterns that recruit quote unquote evidence to keep making that entity correct.
yeah,
Right? So it's like the doom scrolling, it's it's like the habit of feeling hurt by things.
yeah,
I have a client who she's really just we've worked a lot on the money
Yeah.
mindset patterning and have done some really, really deep stuff. And, I've gotten those like messages where it's like the existential thing is happening and like, oh my God, it's falling apart. And it feels very real for her. And there was this experience recently where she got a notice from the IRS about a certain amount of money or whatever, and she freaked out, like complete panic attack, which I have so much empathy for because I've
Yeah.
grew up with watching my parents go through IRS stuff and then becoming an entrepreneur. It's like it's a whole initiation, of the IRS relationship and money and all this. And she had messaged me, but it was like at night, and so I didn't hear it, and then the next day, and she came in and said, I have to tell you, I showed the notice to my husband and he said, honey, that's money they're giving to us.
Wow.
You overpaid. But she could only see it through
Incredible.
the eyes of I owe, I owe, I owe. And I was just like, oh, so it's such a beautiful moment for her to see
Wow.
like what glasses she was wearing.
Yeah, yeah. And those are not easy to remove sometimes. We need allies like you or a husband or a friend or a book that you read of somebody you admire or
Mhm.
something that doesn't only lock you in because those eyes that you're saying, the eyes that she is looking at the life through
Yes.
are frozen
Right.
in a certain state. So
Yes.
therefore, I look at, you turn your head and I have a narrative about that. I have a belief about that. You could say
Right.
it triggers something. And
Yeah.
that thing it triggers lives in me. So even though I ask you and it
Mhm.
turns out it was positive amount of money, but a part of me is living in a
Oh,
world
yeah. You
where
get that
I'm in
envelope.
financial trouble. That
Yes.
world sometimes can be shifted easily just by waking a person up about them and changing them, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's locked in because somebody, maybe a past generation, maybe 2 generations ago, survived in a fearful mode.
Mm.
My survival
Mhm.
was dependent. I know that in my Jewish identity. My survival was dependent on being paranoid. I'm not trying to put that down. You get that down. I'm
I
watching and
do.
being distrustful. And I learned things. It was good to be distrustful. It's still good sometimes to be distrustful because
Yeah.
people shouldn't be trusted. So it's not unintelligent totally, but it's locked in a certain way, built on a certain story that I don't know about. So sometimes that story needs to be unearthed, or the energies in them, or the body experiences of those, or the way I'm looking at myself, or the belief system. Something needs to happen so I can get freer. Then I can say, like before, I was saying, oh, that sounds like a sexist voice that's telling me, focus on your family. Are you sacrificing your kids? But now you could also say, oh, that's a voice that's related to some history I have. And
Mm.
money has huge histories for every single person on the planet. Either it
Yes.
has a history of you deserve everything and you can have a trust fund, and then there's a certain unconsciousness about money, or I have a poverty or whatever. So those background stories are enormous. And the planet itself, everybody has money issues because the planet has money
The
issues.
planet
Meaning
has
there are
issues.
people and nations and groups that dominate and abuse and use the power to, I was going to say rape, but I don't mean only the sexual rape. Rape land and minerals, and certain people become pawns in those schemes, and certain people beneficiaries and not notice it. So we're
Mhm.
all in a. It's not easy to flow with money freely and not have certain lenses, as you know, because you're working with that more regularly. I don't,
Mhm.
um, but it takes a lot of freedom. Gosh, money stuff. Oh my gosh, when I first was married to Lisa, my partner 22 years ago, she would get like a box from Amazon would come in the mail, and I would say, "What's in the box?" You know?
Mm.
Well, I
Mhm.
don't know, the jeans, let's say, and I'd say, "Oh, like how much do those jeans cost?" Can you it sounds like a question, but in me, it wasn't a question. It was like, "How much money are you spending?"
Yeah. Oh, I hear it. Yep.
And then there'd be aggression in there.
Mhm.
"I don't spend that much money. Where you get off spending that much money? That much on jeans?" That took a
Yeah.
while for me to realize I was scared about money. So, years later, I got
Right.
to say,
Right.
"Oh, shit, sometimes you buy stuff, and I'm kind of a frightened kid around money sometimes." So now I'm not, like, challenging,
Mm.
aggressive, controlling person, right? Now I'm
Mhm.
at least more honest because 'cause I'm just scared, and I'm like, "Can you tell me things are gonna be okay?" Or, "Let's talk about our
Mhm.
budget and what we can do." Uh,
Mhm.
and then later in life, I was like, "You know what? part of me is I'm jealous because I don't let myself buy anything.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna buy a pair of jeans or whatever it is I want to mortar and pestle I just bought, for my cooking, or I'm gonna be more freer. So over time, the money thing has shape shifted into I'm more like, what are you doing, Amber? You sure do you really need that? So there'd be more of an aggressive kind of thing. I'm not trying to put myself down. I'm just human. To gosh, I get scared about money too. Hey, I want to do things. Why don't I do some more things myself? And so the overuse as
Yes.
that
Yes.
background story and traumas loosened, then I get
Mm,
freer
mm,
to do
mm.
things. Yeah.
Ooh, okay. One thing that I do, I feel like this could be powerful, and this feels like a big reveal or just something to say. I feel often really triggered by people who are, oh, yeah. So, like, doing really, really, really well financially, like, just the ones who are like, I have this and I'm doing this and whatever, like they're screenshotting and all this stuff. And I feel this part of me, and I actually, as we're talking, I'm like, I feel like it's my parents when the neighbors would pull in with a new boat or an RV or something, and they'd be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, they've got all the toys, must be nice."
Uh-huh.
And there's like this thing of like people who have this perception of wealth that like that's not responsible or that's not good. And I think that there's some folks that I've sort of aligned myself with. They don't know it, but I've like learned from them that um talk about responsibility and wealth and being like conscientious, like
Mhm.
from a conscious place of like doing good with money and not being all, in the luxury and so there's this
Mhm.
part of me that's like, I can feel this part of me that's like, I don't want to be like that. Like the people who are like out there with the rolling around in their Benjamins and like bathtubs of money and stuff. I
Me
don't
too.
want to be like that. But I also, there's the part of me that's like, yeah, but that's triggering you. And why can't they just be in a bathtub of money if they want to be? So I
Right.
create this weird conflict inside of myself of like trying not to be something that I'm not. And then
Yeah.
just being like
Mhm.
nothing because I hold it back
Yeah.
in this
Yes.
way of, does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah. There's a part of you that not only wants to be in the bathtub of money. I'm not saying that literally, by the
Yeah,
way.
right, right.
But the image, right? It's
Yes.
a poetic image. We were talking about poetry. There's a part of you that not only wants to be, but is,
Hmm.
and you don't know her well enough yet. That's what
Oh,
I
like
know.
I feel guilty for being her.
Yeah. And if you were in a bathtub of money with no guilt,
I don't
and I
know
don't
how to
know
do that. Oh,
what
that's
that
so
means
interesting.
exactly,
Yeah.
but having tons of money, I don't know how much would be a bathtub of money?
I
Make
don't
up,
know.
is it 20
Let's
zillion or is it 20 billion or is it 100,000 every month that gets
Oh, it'd
poured
probably
into them?
be like, yeah, it'd probably be like, let's just for the sake of this conversation, you need to have a bucket of like $100,000 worth of cash to fill a bathtub. We'll
Okay,
say that.
good. Right. So let's say you got a bucket of $100,000 worth of cash.
Yeah. Or buckets, I guess, right? We have
Oh,
buckets.
yeah, yeah, money buckets, right? And
Money buckets,
you're laying in the bath, and then we're pouring one
pouring
bucket
it
after
in.
another after
Yeah.
another, and there's maybe hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in that thing. And imagine you're there.
Mhm.
You don't have to be in the bath anymore, but I'm just here's a bucket, and
Yep.
here's another bucket, and here's another bucket. And what happens to you? What is it like? Not what are you gonna go buy and all, that's not a good question, but first, what's it like with those buckets of hundreds of thousands of dollars each?
The first word that comes up is so ridiculous. It's
It's
got like a
ridiculous.
little judgment in it. Like it's just so ridiculous. That's what
Yeah,
comes up.
great, it's so ridiculous, and then let yourself sink one more level. Is ridiculous the plumber says
Like
ridiculous?
for me, I'm not saying it about somebody else. I'm saying it for myself. Like it's so ridiculous. What are you doing?
Yeah,
Why are you doing that?
yeah.
Why do you think that's important? Why do you think you have to have that?
I don't know if it's important yet, but and we're gonna get to that, but first I have to allow the experience of it. What happens to your body and your feelings? Here's 100,000. Oh, here's another one.
I feel like I'm taking advantage of people.
Right, right, so that criticism, the person watching you, the
Yeah.
parent watching the neighbor, there's something
Yeah.
watching you that's putting you down, that
Mm,
doesn't even allow you to know what it's like. We don't think it's
right.
good or bad. We don't it's like, "Oh, you're bad, you're taking advantage of somebody,"
Yeah.
etcetera. So that's watching you so closely. Okay,
Mm.
let's imagine that we can get rid of that person for a moment. I promise, dear judger, we will get you back in 3 minutes. You'll be there right after our
Take a
time
coffee
together.
break.
I promise you. You're just gonna go away for a couple of minutes, and Amber's just gonna settle in, and then David's gonna bring her a bucket of $100,000, and she's just gonna allow whatever happens to her, not the judgment, huh, and then
Mm.
he brings another one,
Yeah.
and then he brings another one, and what happens to you?
She goes, "Oh, this is so cool. Imagine what we could do with this.
Yeah, what could you do with it?
Oh my gosh, we could like, I don't do whatever we want, but like we could help a lot of people with this. Like we could create some cool stuff."
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what's it like to be able to help a lot of people? What's it feel when
Yeah,
you
it
I say
feels
you can help so many people, Amber. What happens to you?
we could give 100,000 people $1, you know?
Yeah,
That's so fun. You could touch 100,000 people's lives.
yeah.
That's so
Okay.
feels so fun.
So that already helps me. So what I learned from that much is
Mm.
part of your riches and your wealth is touching people's lives.
Yep.
And you are not experiencing that enough because money turns into helping people's lives. So and we could go further with that, but you're touching people's lives. Do you know how good that is? Do you feel the riches of being able to do that? Making a podcast, people are going to listen. Some people are going to be changed by that. You have to sit back. Yeah, you feel that. Yeah. The idea of money is stealing someone's notion of money and it being literal and it's only money is stealing the experience
Yeah.
of the wealth.
Yeah.
Then make as much money as you want, but enjoy that. Be moved by that, feel the wealth of that, and let that spread. And that'll probably bring you more literal money too. Great.
Mm.
Mhm. Great.
Yeah. Yeah, I think of we have a boat, David.
Mhm.
Right? We have all the toys that my parents used to judge, and it's so joy producing to take our friends out and kids out and to go tubing the way that I did growing up, and we'd borrow the neighbor's boat or whatever. And
Yeah,
now my kids and their friends get to go, and it's so
yeah,
fun. It's so
yeah.
fun.
There's a really big giving spirit in you, and she needs to be allowed to be much bigger.
Mm,
I don't know how big she is. She wants to give to the kids. She wants to give $1 to 100,000 people and more. But whoever that is, she has something in her that many people need to feed on.
mm,
You need to take a lot of people for rides. A lot of people need things that you have,
mm, mhm.
and knowing what that is. Mhm.
Yeah. That's why we
Yeah,
built this. This is a guest that we have our friends come and sleep here and stay here. It's a place for people to come.
yeah,
I wanted to share it. I feel that I want to share it. I want to share it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's a big share. That's
Hmm.
not just a share with 1 or 2 people. That's a share that's very, very big, bigger than you are aware of.
Mm,
Mhm. Share more and know that people need it. There are people out there who don't know that you exist yet, who are waiting for you to share something with. I know that because you just showed me that. That's not I'm
right.
not just trying to be nice about that. I know how that works.
Right.
As someone who has that vision of being inundated with lots of wealth means that there are a lot of people waiting for that wealth, meaning the goodies that you
Hmm.
have to share to be
Hmm.
given to them.
Hmm.
Yeah. So you have to know that there's a big pull. There's many of
Mm,
us out here. We need what you got. Come on. Mhm,
right.
mhm.
Right.
If you
So what
think,
do you do when the judger comes back from the coffee break?
yeah, then you 2 things. One, you think whenever that judge is there, that must mean I'm thinking of myself smaller and that I don't have as much to share as I do. That means you have
Mm,
to reclaim every time. Or you don't know how big I am. You don't know how many
mm,
people are waiting to
mhm.
hear what I have to say. There's so many.
Yeah.
And when you're around, I don't think that. So you go back to
The
people
feeling.
been benefited by you and the people out there and how much you have to share and the goal that you have, which means the stuff that you have to share.
Mm.
And then you have to get to know what is it that is so golden in me that needs to be shared. There's certain intelligences and insights. There's your own nature and there's your own approach. There's something that's uniquely, in addition to the specifics. I know things about money mindset. I know things about business. In
Mhm.
addition to that, there's something unique to you
Yeah.
that you're sharing. Just like there's something unique to me, you can learn my way, but then David is David style. People will hear that
Right.
weird and awkward and passionate and childlike, and then there's something comes out of my own nature. Something comes out of your nature. That's golden. Mhm.
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
your. That's where the wealth comes from. That's where the buckets come from.
Yeah. Thanks for that visual.
Yeah.
So, for everybody who's listening, I think it's important that I just sort of extract this for a moment because you guys got to witness that in real time. So, thank you, David, for doing that with me.
Yeah. You're welcome.
And now I have a reference point of what I felt in my body when David was saying, was acknowledging and witnessing the big giving energy that's inside of me.
Yeah.
And so I can source back to that. I can anchor that feeling. I
Mm.
can I can watch this recording back to see the moment. It is this is why witness work is so important. I think it's we can do it on our own, yes, but it's better when we're with people who can help us do that so that we don't feel like we have to hold the whole thing ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. If things get caught by those ideas and those beliefs, that's this. That's greedy,
Yes. That was
etc.
very real at the front. That was very real. It was like
Yeah.
that felt like the truth.
Yeah, then you don't then it stops you from
Yeah.
getting to know, "What's
Yes.
this bucket of money?" Like, if you ask me, "What would it be like to make more and more and more money? How
Yeah.
much would be, like, enough, enough, enough?" Then I might say, "Another $3,000,000 in the bank and another $500,000 a year." And
Yeah.
then if you said, "What would it be like to have that?" David would kinda go, "Oh, listen,
Mm,
oh." Just
mm.
kinda go, "Oh, great, that would be fine." He goes, "Oh."
Relief.
Oh, ah, I can sit back, I'll probably be writing more poems, you
Yes.
know?
This is what I say.
So,
Have you
this is a
writing more
guy who wants to
poems?
write poems, right? Like,
Yes.
he wants space to write poems,
Yeah.
so that means there's already a poet in him that's
Right.
not living enough,
Yes.
deprived.
Yes.
He thinks but the doorway in his mind is money will get me there. Some money is good. Money is great to have. I've made a lot more in the last years than I've ever thought I would make. I'm happy about that. That's really cool. I live in a really cool house. I moved to Santa Barbara, California, whatever. I'm like, have a much richer life. But the greatest moments are like I'm walking on the beach, which is not far from my house, with a poetry book, and I'm thinking about a poem I want to write. That I'm not having anything, but that guy is he feels free to do that. Yeah.
Right.
That freedom has been waiting for generations.
Mhm.
My father
Mm.
worked a day job, a nighttime job, and a weekend job. He didn't have time for quote unquote poetry or his own, right?
Mm.
For better, whether that was true or not, but he was caught in the
Yes.
male myth. This is what you have to do as a man to support a family, and his father died and left him in a difficult situation. So you have a whole story, and everyone's now surviving, right? No one
Mhm.
gets rich, meaning lives the life that riches provide.
Mhm.
And people don't even know what it provides. We think it provides safety, and for some people it does. I can't afford to give food to my kids. That person is unsafe.
Correct.
Some of us are more safe in that way, and then we have to live more richly out of the genius that lives in us. And then usually that relates to making more money. Not always. You can't say do that and the money will follow. Some people,
True.
but
Mhm.
the richness will follow, and the enoughness will follow.
Mm.
Yeah,
And what it's sort of zipping up that we've journeyed with in this conversation is that it creates this energetic congruence
yeah,
for for the self, but I would also say for the selves, for the people that are going to experience us and our work.
yeah.
And there's something about that congruence that becomes so believable, right? Like so trustworthy. And I think that without knowing it, so many entrepreneurs out there
Mm,
are operating with their internalized shame and oppression, and it's serving as this filter that is making them not quote unquote believable and trustworthy when they are the most trustworthy people on the planet. I always say to the women in my community, I will say, I see all their beautiful faces on the screen. I'll say,
mm,
the thing that is so amazing about every one of you in this room is that if I needed anything, if my children needed something, it's like makes me cry. I could just call you. I would give you my
mm.
child.
Right.
Like, that's
That's
the
that's
level.
that's riches. That's big time riches.
That's
That's a gorgeous story and
that's
experience.
who you are. If you're listening to this, like that's who you are.
Mhm.
And that
Mm,
we live, David, as if that's
mm.
not true. Because that internalized, oppressed critic, it keeps telling us that lie.
Yeah.
And yet
Over and
it feels
over.
like truth, right? It's just, it moves me so deeply.
Mm, incredible. Your feelings are so alive and beautiful. The tears and the gratefulness and the honoring and the privilege of having that all wrapped up in your voice and tears. And yeah, that's you just gave me. You just shared something with me now. Makes me richer. Makes me feel the absence of some of what you're saying. I want more of that too. Yeah, so you reminded me in saying that story. Yeah, there must be people out there who would be more like that than I realize. I bet you there are. How come I don't know it? I'm not paying attention to that detail. And you remind me, I don't have to do it all alone.
Mm.
It meaning care about myself. Yeah.
Right. Right. It's like, oh, what an amazing feeling. And I say this as a woman and a mother of, multiple children, and that mother load a lot of us talk about, and what we carry, and how we're the ones that we're the noticer and we're the knower and we're the magic maker. And it's all so important to us. And our work is so important to us. And how
Mm,
we're almost like less practiced at it, though, in some ways, because it hasn't felt safe in order to, unless it's
mm,
like the big thing, then
yeah.
what's the point of this? And I think we need so many more examples of each other letting it be right sized for the life that we're living, that is the dream that we are experiencing. And we have to have the courage to bring our versions forth and to use our full voice even when it's shaking,
Yeah.
and to use these little silly
Mhm,
little virtual stages that we have
yeah.
to bring this truth forward and to
Mm,
live it the full way. And I just appreciate
mhm,
the pathways that you have blazed, and you've
mhm,
created for us to meet ourselves in a safer way.
yeah. That's beautifully said. You're so I love the fluency with language that you have, your feelings and your ideas, how they blend together. Yeah. Anyway, I was appreciating that. You're yeah, having we need I'm just thinking about motherhood now, but other categories, we need more models, you're saying, out there. Otherwise, the traditional model is the only comparison, and that traditional model is still your job is to take care of your kids. It's not as much as it was 50 years ago or 20 years ago. I know that's changing, but it obviously still lives inside of you, as you're saying. It still lives inside the people who are giving the list because they're talking about, am I not doing enough for my family with that criticism? So we need to have more images and models. I'm thinking about some of the mothers I've worked with who wrestled with chronic illness, which often means pain And pain is, if I'm in a lot of pain, it's hard for me to concentrate on other things, right? If I put you in a lot of pain, if I poked one spot on you and it'd be like, and your kid was screaming,
Yeah.
the scream would probably get there, but the more and more pain I put you in, the harder it'd be to hear anything because all you're hearing is like, ah, screaming inside. And with chronic illnesses often come exhaustions. So those two, pain and exhaustion, make a person less available. So then many of these mothers who have chronic symptoms, there's a whole trip about I'm not. One of the problems is with the illness. If you ask them what's so bad about having this illness, they won't say I'm in a lot of pain, this and that. They'll say I'm not there for my kids. I'm not there for my kids. And it's a real suffering. There's a real guilt and a pain and a compassion for their children. But it's not only that. There's also a beating they're taking because
Yes.
I'm exhausted and only have a few hours and then I have to rest, that I'm not doing enough.
Right.
So then the biggest pain of the illness is not the illness itself. It's that I'm not able to be a good enough mother, you know?
Right.
And then there's
Right.
no
And that
other
and the house is
model.
a mess and the
Yeah.
yes.
I'm not
Right.
there, I'm not being productive and mothering enough. And then
Yeah.
there's not enough models to say, what's a mother like who has chronic illness and can only give a certain amount? Well, she's less of a good mother. I got it, Joe. You understand. But what's she like? Well, she's not a good enough mother. I know. We're not looking for the judgment. Like, what is she like?
Right.
How does
Right.
she mother? How does she mother more tenderly? How does she use the time? How does she build an understanding for care when people are ill into that family? What gifts does she bring that other people don't know about? There's no unfolding, unwrapping, flowering of what is the beauty of that person. If that's what they're going to have for the rest of their life, and some people will, is there anything wonderful? Is there anything unique about that person? What do they deliver? What are the compassions they learn from suffering that they can teach their kids? It's all just, you're not good enough. You're back to the enough thing.
Right.
And it's a huge pain. Anyway, you're making me think about um, motherhood and what gets wrapped in. I work with a woman. I think it may have been in a course that you were in a long time ago, and she said um, she had a lot of shame because when she was young, when she had a young child, and she was busy, and her child did something. I think they spilled something that gave them a burn mark on there.
Yes. I remember. Yeah.
You know? And I've thought about that so many times, and so I was asking her what that's like, and she's so much pain because she's looking at her child's face and she's seeing I caused that pain.
Yes.
So now that woman is looking at the child, and it's what she's seeing is I'm a bad mother. She's not seeing a child with a scar. Does
Yes.
that make
Every
sense?
time.
She's
Yeah.
seeing I'm a bad mother. I'm a bad mother. I'm a bad mother. And I always thought, like, how often does that happen? And then she's not looking at a child. Then, in a way, the painful story is her child is a stimulus for her thinking she's a bad person. That's not a great way to be a mother either. I'm looking at you and I'm thinking I'm a bad person. I'm not really here for you anymore. I'm not putting that down. That's the trap that that whole story and the whole system puts that person in. And I remember working with her on, can you look at that child as having a mark? Can you look at them and see stories that they went through? You can feel some pain. I wish I didn't do it. But if that's all it is, if you're not seeing a person who's going to show who they are in the world because of a mark, if you can't dream into that, imagine into that,
Mm.
find a relationship about that, seeing a warrior mark or a story that the person's lived in, or part of the difficulty that you went through to become you that you share, something that could flower, right?
Mm.
Not something that makes you small. I'm a bad person. People should care about hurting people. I get that. But being told you're bad because you hurt someone forever and ever and ever when you're a really good-hearted person, this is not like ethics or morality. This is just being beaten and punished,
Yes.
uh, and then it doesn't make you a better mother. It makes you less available.
And I think as a I'm a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and my mother really punished herself because it
Mhm.
happened when I was in childcare and she was at work. She had her own business.
Oh,
She ended
oh,
up selling her business, this
oh,
successful
wow.
like dream of hers to
Incredible.
protect me and my brother.
Incredible.
And yet I heard that story over and over and over. Like I basically like I gave up my dream for you.
Wow.
And so I lived as the child who watched her mother give up her dream
Yes.
for her original dream, which I was able to finally get to years and years later, but I felt all of this shame about it. That it
Yes.
was my fault because I told the truth, but I was so young, I didn't know, and it was
Yeah.
so complicated, and then I testified in court against my abuser, but then my mom's family stopped talking to us because they sided with him, and
Incredible.
there's so much pain in all of that,
Yeah.
and but I
Yeah.
remember as the child deeply just wanting my mom to be free of it because I was like,
Yeah.
she helped me get therapy and she helped me go
Yeah.
use my voice in a powerful way as
Yeah.
a 5-year-old against my abuser. Like
Incredible.
she helped me do all of that.
Amazing.
And I always wanted her to know.
Yeah. Yeah. You can tell her literally, and if she can't hear it, then
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
tell
and she, and she'll still say to this day, like, "You can't understand what it feels like." And I said, "I can't, but I also was the child. So let's try to just witness each other in the
her.
truth of what we both experienced and
Yeah.
cherish what we
Yeah.
have now."
Yeah.
And I have these beautiful children. And guess what, mom? I have a business.
Yeah.
And
You have
I've
to.
been with her since she was 9 months old, like I've been there.
Out of that story, out of a parent's unlived dream, and every parent has certain dreams that are unlived, more or less, some more, some less. Some really didn't have the choice. Some were like didn't believe that they could have those choices,
Yeah.
and whatever, and the conditioning. But out of that unlived life, you have to take those parts of the dream that weren't
Mm,
lived, that are also that resonate with you, and you have to make them happen.
and
It's in
yeah.
the inheritance of that mother.
Yeah.
One big piece of the inheritance is there's a dream I couldn't live, and if it's in you, and if it's not you and just do it, if it's in you, you have to do it.
And I did.
Handing it off to you, and not just the responsibility for the dream, but the gifts and the intelligence and the spirit that would make it happen.
Yeah.
I'm handing that all off to you. You got to do something with it. I couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one thing in terms of the unlived life. Certainly, unlived life we shouldn't take on, but certain things are handed off, and then you take it as far as you can, and then somebody else will take it. It could
Yeah.
be a child of yours, or it could be somebody else. It could be a client of yours that's going to say, "I can do something that you couldn't do."
Right.
Or not because it wasn't in you, it wasn't not because you're a failure, and then somebody else has to take it. I'm gonna do it this way. Now I'm not gonna do it. I'm only gonna do it about sharing my voice, and it's not gonna be about,
Mm,
about family at all. I don't know. Somebody else is gonna do that. So that inheritance, and that is the honoring of that, to the
mm,
spirit of that family, and your mother will feel will be eased by that. And the other thing I want to say about that story is your truth telling has power, so much power that it can alter your mother's life. I'm not saying for better or worse, but it can alter her life. It can alter abuser's life. It can
right.
alter your life. So that says that there's a truth telling that you have, and it can alter lives
Yeah.
in a big way. So you have to capture that out of it
Mm,
because she says, when you tell the truth, I can't say the same.
right.
So don't only feel bad about that. You also think, whoa, that's how powerful my truth telling voice is. Now live that more. Again, share that. That's part of the sharing. That truth telling voice in
Mm,
you needs to be shared and it needs to change people's lives as
right.
it did. I'm not saying it always worked in the way you would want it to work, but your mother recognized the power of that voice in the story of it. I'm not saying she thought about it that way. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you,
my
mom.
father uh, didn't live up his dreams, but and he thought I have to be there for my kids. So and that meant working. His wasn't about being home and being loving because he was kind of brutal when he was home. That meant working. And I remember telling a teacher of mine, Max, he was a Swiss psychologist, about my father and violence. And I said my father was particularly violent in the car. Like you never wanted him to get to a red light because if he
Mm,
got to the red light, he would get into this angry, hostile, road ragey mood. And it was like, so I would sit in the back of the car going, nobody say anything, right? Because if you said something, then he'd go off, right? Like
yeah.
you don't say, don't get upset because, you don't tell a person who's about to go off, don't get upset, then they blow. So I remember how scared I was. about red lights and getting to a red light. And Mark said to me, "Oh, your father should have run that red light in his life. He must have sat there all his life."
Mm.
And it was true. Did it make sense? He sat at a red light. He
Yeah.
never went for the dream. He sat there, and out of that came a violence. So
Right.
now we have a metaphor for it, a moment that we experiences it. He is not aware of that. I get the red light, I get crazy because my life feels like a freaking red light,
Mm.
and I want to blow up. Only he could never blow up and say, "Screw you" to the people he was working for, and I'm going to do my own thing. And this model of being a good husband doesn't have, a good father doesn't have to be me making this, whatever. He couldn't break out of that.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
have to.
Yes.
That means he couldn't do it, then I have to say, "Are you at a red light lately, David? You're getting grumpy." "Yeah, a little bit." "Uh-huh."
Oh, yeah. Am I not using my voice? Yeah.
"Yeah."
Yeah.
Then you're at the red light, then for me, then violence.
Yep.
It's not an excuse for my father's violence, by the way, but it's
Right.
a story that I then have to pick up. Go through
Right.
the red lights. You need a little bit of fire, otherwise you're gonna sit in the red light, and then you probably get grumpy and hurt somebody, David, including yourself. That's not a good idea. Learn that from the father. Don't learn just to not be angry and hostile. Learn to go through red lights.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I
Wow.
know our time is
I know. We
drawing
could
nigh.
we could like go for hours, that's
Oh,
how we roll.
yeah.
Um, thank you. I
Mhm.
feel like we really did it. And
Mm.
I'm proud of all of us, everybody listening, and
Yeah.
for both of us for just the
Mhm.
work and the willingness and the tears and the every
Mhm.
bit in between. And yeah, I my goal with this podcast, um, which by the time it goes live, it's gonna have a new name. And
Oh,
so, spoiler alert, people,
is the name out yet or not yet?
they'll be listening to it under the new name, so I'll tell
Okay.
you before it's hit, it's called
But
Homeward.
oh,
And it just, don't you feel that? It's called Homeward.
we're down. I'm now having Simon and Garfunkel in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
amazing.
feel like that's what we did here today. So it's perfect that your interview will be the first interview on Homeward,
Oh,
this next chapter. So
I'm
thank you.
honored.
Yeah.
I'm honored.
Yeah.
Finding the gifts, the intelligences, the flowering, even in your mother's story, even that painful story, even in my father's story, even in the concern about wealth and buckets of money, or finding the flowering into the sovereignty or your tenderness or the truth tellingness, or yeah, that's what I'm just thinking about, the theme,
Yeah.
opening to what's happening enough to get to know it, and recognizing
Yeah. And to just,
hurtful voices that are putting us down so we can break those chains a bit. Yeah, you're having a experience.
yeah. Well, I'm thinking about this conversation I had with my daughter last night, and I just said, we were on the couch and she was just watching a show, and I was like, "Hey, how's your relationship with you going lately?"
Mhm.
And just asked her, and she was like, this is something we talk about all these things a lot. And she said, "Pretty good." And I said, "How are you feeling about?" She's going to the Hobby Horse National Championships next week, and she's
Ah,
had a lot of this anxiety, and we've been really talking about the meaning of it, like, what does that anxiety want you to see, and
yeah,
what is it showing you, like, where is it in your body, and like really having walking her through some of this stuff. And she's
cool.
she was able to get to like, "Oh, I'm actually just so excited, I feel like I could explode." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, what does it look like to explode? Like, let's explode together."
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Just playing with her in that field. And but this
Beautiful.
idea of like asking ourselves like regularly, like, what's my relationship with me like right now?
Yeah.
And centering that, because I know so well that when we're not doing well together, the way that I then project that out into other relationships and my marriage and my motherhood and my friendships and my
Huge,
business and
huge.
everything. And I my
Mhm.
goal, my central focal point is like those times when I want to be abusive to myself for things. I recently got when I was painting this, I got the sweater and the paint, and then I was so mad at myself because I told myself, "Don't do that." And then I did it. And then I was like thinking about the times my daughter gets paint on her clothes and I get upset with her about it. And I'm like, I just did it. And then I was thinking, you know what? My relationship with myself is not less important than a sweater,
Yeah,
right? The sweater's not more important than me and me. And,
yeah,
my
I
sweet
love that.
husband, yeah, my Ben
And
got
then
the
the
paint
woman
out.
and then the woman who didn't change the who didn't take the sweater off, you know?
Right. Like she was just excited about the paint, you
She's
know?
like, "The excitement of the paint is more important for me. I'm following myself." Yeah,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
support her
Like to
her
be as free
enthusiasm.
as that, you know? Wow.
Yeah, her freedom. Yeah,
Yeah.
is the that's that's what you got. That's the free therapy you got from the person who did it. So and it's not as much as the sweaters or anyway, most
Yeah.
people rate so much, you can probably buy a new sweater with that, so
Yeah. Yeah. It was so good. So just thank you for allowing us to honor these sacred relationships
Mm.
with ourselves.
Great hanging out with you, Amber.
You too, David. So
Yeah.
you guys, David's on Instagram. You're probably already following him for sure. But if you're not, the links are in the show notes. And I love what you share there. I think of them as like little baby sermons almost, these like little intervention moments.
Mm.
Um, the book, The Unshaming Way, the most recent book, is available on Instagram, on Amazon. And you can just, go to the links that we have in the show notes for everything. Is there anything else, David, that you have that you're cooking up right now? This is like August 2025 that you want to draw anybody's attention to, or you're like, oh, come over here and check this out?
In September, I think in the middle of September, I'm gonna be teaching a 6-week course. It's right now, it's called Trauma Clinic, and you recognize that term, clinic, because that's what when I worked with Simone Sol, we did a shame clinic, but it's gonna be, 6 weeks giving people really for coaches and entrepreneurs, people who want to work on their own development, some, but I'm really wanting to teach people who are offering their skills to others. So
Mm,
it's really about teaching people some of the basic tools so that they can, coaches and therapists and healers can begin working more consciously with trauma and having not just being informed, but
mm,
having some basic skills that will help them walk into that territory. Yeah.
so good. All right.
Yeah.
Well, you guys check that out and follow David so you'll have all the most up to date timing on that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you, friend. Thank you so much.
See you.